Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu Salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihudahu ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. Dear brothers and sisters, this is lesson number 9 of our commentary on the book of fasting of Mukhtasar Khalil ibn Ishaq rahimahullah tabaraka wa ta'ala. We still have some okay. There is something that was from the last lecture about the pregnant and the woman that has that gives suckling, breastfeeding to her child. So the woman that is afraid about her health, or both of them, if they are afraid about their baby, that he might get sick, or he might get more sick if he's unfortunately sick, and they find it very difficult for them to fast. Therefore, it can be sometimes obligatory for them to break their fast. So it can be obligatory for them to break their fast. But if they are afraid, if they fast, that their child will die or will be in a very bad situation, that would be obligatory for them to fast. Yeah. So it's permissible for them to break their fast if they're afraid about sickness or something like that, or if they find it difficult for them to fast. And it's obligatory for them to break their fast if it's dangerous for them or for the baby. So therefore, if they are afraid about their baby, this is the situation. If they're afraid about themselves, well, that is part of breaking your fast when you're sick. Now, the breastfeeding woman, if she can hire somebody, a woman, to breastfeed her child, that's obligatory for her to fast, and she will get this woman to take care of her child. And the payments is from the money of the child, if he has money, or the father takes care of that because he's responsible for his son. Okay? He's responsible for his son. Now, the breastfeeding woman is obliged to give mud of food for every day she breaks her fast, because she's afraid about the health of her child. If she was afraid about herself, it's not obligatory for her to do that because she's sick, and anyone who's sick is allowed to break his fast. But because she's afraid about the child's health, so she's obliged to give a mud of food for every day she breaks her fast. Because breastfeeding is not actually sickness, it's not a disease actually. Now the pregnant woman, in any case, is not supposed to give mud of ta'am, because pregnancy is a type of sickness in a way or another, because she's not normal woman. She's always tired. There's a human being inside her stomach eating from her and taking her power. You see? Now, the old man and woman that can't fast because they're so old and they can't stand fasting, they have the situation of a sick man, any sick person. So they can break their fast and eat, and sometimes it's obligatory for them to do that. And it's permissible, and it's preferable for them to give mud for every day. Not obligatory. Not obligatory. It's only mustahab. It's only mustahab. Okay? And that is the same situation for anyone who's sick and has a disease that there's no way he's gonna get cured from it, like the diabetes people and these types of any types of disease that the doctors tell them you're not allowed to fast. Okay, so this is the situation here, and the our scholars derive this from the verse 184 from Surah Al-Baqarah. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا, and any one of you who is sick. So these are sick, and Imam Malik derives from this verse وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ فِدْيَةُ طَعَامِ مَسَاكِينَ, two types of recitation. فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ, anyone that can't fast, he is supposed to give ransom of food for needies, and if he makes it voluntarily and fast, that'll be better for him. So Imam Malik says this is abrogated by the verse فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ, any one of you who participates in the month, he should fast the month. Okay. And others say no, it's not obligated. It's not abrogated. Anyway, I spoke about this. Now we still have few things from the last lecture where Imam Malik and where the Sheikh Khalil says here, okay. Okay. وإن نوى برمضان في سفره غيره أو قضاء الخارج أو نواه ونذرا لم يجزع واحد منهما. Now he says here that if any person puts in his intention to fast Ramadan when he is traveling, and he's allowed to break his fast, but he fasts and he puts in his intention to fast another Ramadan that passed away, not this Ramadan. You see, so it's not considered for any day for this Ramadan and the other Ramadan. Imagine this. He's fasted. He can break his fast in Ramadan. And then he decides to fast. But not to fulfill this Ramadan. To fast another Ramadan. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. And the same thing he says, if he fasts this Ramadan, and the same time he says, I'm going to fast an oath that I have, or a penalty that I have, it won't be accepted for any one of them because he didn't have a pure intention. You see? So this is, and any woman, وَلَيْسَ لِمَرْأَةٍ يَحْتَاجُ لَهَا زَوْجٌ تَطَوُّعٌ بِلَا إِذْنٍ. A woman is not allowed to fast voluntarily when her husband wants her for pleasure. He wants her for pleasure. And this is the same thing for any other type of fasting, and her husband is residence. So he has to be abroad, he has to travel, or she has to take permission from him and fasts. But when he's participating, she's not allowed to do that. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا يحل لامرأة أن تصوم وزوجها حاضر. A woman is not allowed to fast when her husband is residence. So therefore, no woman is allowed to fast until she takes permission from her husbands. That's the situation. Okay, now we reach to the last chapter of fasting. The last chapter of fasting is الاعتكاف. باب الاعتكاف. باب الاعتكاف. That means this is a chapter of اعتكاف. What is اعتكاف? I'tikaf is to remain in the masjid for a few days, just worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You just stay there, worshiping God, and there are several conditions for that. Now this chapter here has 43 things, 43 rulings. 43 rulings. Therefore, I'm gonna try to speak about these rulings, and then later on, inshallah, we can see if we can take all this day or leave some of it to the other day. So it says here, الاعتكاف نافلة وصحته لمسلم مميز. الاعتكاف is something that is preferable, and it's considered valid for a Muslim, a responsible person, بمطلق صوم. That means he has to be fasting, ولو نذرا, even if he makes an oath to fast. ومسجد, it has to be in a masjid. You can't do i'tikaf at home, in your house. إلا لمن فرضه الجمعة, except if somebody who is obliged to go to Salat al-Jum'ah, who is an adult, a male that is resident. So adult, a man that is resident and responsible, he has to go to Salat al-Jum'ah. So he can't make i'tikaf in a masjid that there's no Salat Jum'ah in it, because in the ancient days there was so-called Jami', and there was a masjid. Al-Masjid al-Jami', it's the masjid that Jum'ah prayer, that has Jum'ah prayer in it. The masjid that is not Jami', there's no Jum'ah prayer in it. And according to the Malikis, as we studied before, Jum'ah is not allowed to be except in one masjid in the whole city, unless the city is so big. So therefore we can divide that. But nowadays, there's Salat al-Jum'ah in every masjid, and that's wrong actually. Because the idea of the Jami' of Salat al-Jum'ah is to gather the most people you can gather that won't meet the whole week. So they gather each other and they meet. And then we have a big meeting, that is Salat al-Eidain. And then the biggest meeting in al-Hajj. This is the idea. And the Ummah keeps on gathering to discuss about its problems and to solve its problems and speak about what's happening. Not like what's happening today. They prevent people from speaking about what's happening in Islamic countries, and they consider that politics, and they say no one is allowed to speak about politics. That's totally wrong. We don't have anything called politics and religion. There's no division between politics and religion, because there are a lot of things that are part of religion. Therefore, he says here that وَتَجِبُ بِهِ, that means it's obligatory to be in it, in a masjid. فَالْجَامِعُ مِمَّنْ تَصِحُّ فِيهِ الْجُمْعَةِ. So al-jami' is for the guys that have to pray Jumu'ah. So if they are gonna make i'tikaf and more than 1 week, and they have to go to Salat al-Jum'ah, they have to make i'tikaf in a masjid jami'. Or else, if it's only a few days, they can make it in any masjid. Now for women, they can make it in any masjid. وَإِلَّا خَرَجَ وَبَطَّلَ. Or else, he has to go out of the masjid, and that nullifies his i'tikaf. Kamal the abaway, the same thing. If his two parents are sick, if his two parents are sick, actually he's not allowed to go and see them, or else that would nullify his etikaf. But actually, if he doesn't go to see them, that would be very bad for him, because that means he's not a good guy, because he's not kind with his parents, and that's against the Islamic teaching. So he has to nullify his i'tikaf and go and see his parents. You see? Now I'm just passing quickly on what he's saying. I'm not giving details nor evidence. See? So therefore he says that's now here sometimes there are some strange things that our scholars say. You know, he says here that now he says that if he goes out to see one of his parents who are sick, so he is obliged to do that, but that nullifies his i'tikaf. So therefore, this nullifies his i'tikaf, but even if his parents are not Muslim, you see, for example, your parents aren't Muslim, that doesn't change the situation. You have to be good with your parents, no matter who they are. You're not supposed to be good with your parents if they're Muslims and they're righteous. No. You have to be good and just with your parents and respect them in any case, but don't obey them if they order you to do something against the Islamic rulings. But a part of that, you have to respect them and be good. So if your parents or one of them is sick, you have to go. You can't just stay praying in the masjid and worshiping and leaving your parents sick without taking care of them. That's against the Islamic teachings. You see? That's why scholars say if he doesn't go out of the masjid and see his parents, he's considered as aaq. And al-uquq here, it's a nasty thing. That means you are bad to your parents. You aren't just to your parents. And this is a very horrible thing. You know, in Morocco, if they want to tell you something is horrible or so big, you know, for example, he says, I saw something very big. What does he say? He says it's so big as disrespecting your parents. They use the word sakhat. Sakhat. That means it's greater than the sakhat. Or it's like the sakhat. And because the sakhat, which is disrespecting the parents, is horrible and big that you can't imagine, they go exaggerating with this, using this word. So therefore, you have to go and see your parents. See? Now, there are some of our scholars that say he can go and come back and continue his i'tikaf because he did something that is actually considered as a worship, which is respecting and taking care of his parents. And this is an excuse. So therefore, and some others say, no, that nullifies his i'tikaf. Now it says, it's not permissible for you to go out to participate in their funeral, prayer or whatever. Why? In their funeral burying and stuff like that. They say if it's one of them, yes, because if you don't go, your father or your mother would be upset, and that's actually uquq. But if both of them die, they don't know what happened, and that's it. But actually, this is not. I can't accept this actually. Anyway, he says if he does that, that would nullify his i'tikaf. But anyway, in two cases, if he goes and participates, that would nullify his i'tikaf. If he goes out and participates in the janazah, that would nullify his i'tikaf. But anyway, it's not a big deal. And the same thing that would nullify your i'tikaf, if you go to the court for a testimony. So you're not allowed to go for a testimony. Now you're busy in i'tikaf. Even if it's obligatory for you. And if there is no way except going to the courts, it says he says no way until you finish your i'tikaf. If you go out, that would nullify your i'tikaf, and that's something not, you did something that is not permissible for you to do. And they can come to the masjid and take your testimony. So that can solve the problem. So the judge can send somebody and take your testimony from inside the masjid. Or the judge himself would come and listen to you in the masjid. You see, he says either the judge comes or he sends somebody to get the testimony from you. And what nullifies i'tikaf as well is apostasy. That means somebody, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, Allah al-afiyah, apostatized from Islam, either by saying that he's not Muslim anymore and he rejects the religion, or by saying a word that leads him to that, like insulting the religion, or insulting God, or saying something that is against Islam that nullifies the whole tawheed. So therefore, he has to, that nullifies the i'tikaf. Actually, it nullifies everything, not only the i'tikaf. لَإِنَّ اشْتَرَكَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَإِنَّ اشْتَرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ. If you associated partners with God, that would nullify all your deeds. And he is supposed to get out of the masjid. He is a kafir, murtad. How can he stay in the masjid? And the same thing which nullifies your fasting, your i'tikaf, is to break your fast inside the masjid. Because the Malikis say that fasting is a condition in i'tikaf. So you can't imagine somebody doing i'tikaf without fasting. He has to be fasting. So if he eats and drinks in the morning, that nullifies his i'tikaf. And but if he makes that by forgetting, so he forgot and he ate, therefore he has to continue his fasting and repeat another day. Okay? But if he breaks his fast because he's sick, or she has her menstruation periods, so both of them are not supposed to repeat that day because they have an excuse. But if that happens because he intercoursed his wife, or he started kissing her and practicing some sexual acts, they call it in Arabic the introduction to intercoursing, muqaddimatul jima'. So if he makes that by intention or he forgot, it's the same, and that nullifies his i'tikaf, and that's so clear in the Holy Quran actually. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُبَاشِرُونَ وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ, and don't approach them when you are doing i'tikaf in the masajid. And he has to, okay. And if he gets drunk, by drinking alcoholic beverages in the nights, for example, that nullifies his i'tikaf. How can you imagine somebody drinking wine in a masjid in the night of Ramadan or something like that? Man, this is a very horrible situation. And he has to start it from the beginning, even if he wakes up before the dawn from his drunk. Now, are all sins, major sins, the same, nullifying his i'tikaf? There are some scholars who said that, like insulting a woman by or a man by claiming that they committed adultery or they fornicated or some, like using these nasty words, fuck or whatever. It's the same. This word, actually using this word for a Muslim and for a chesty woman or a man, this is considered as al-qadhf, and al-qadhf is a major sin. So be aware, never use these words at all, because it's a very horrible word. And the one who uses these words deserves to be lashed 80 lashes. He deserves to be lashed 80 lashes. And backbiting and saying to others what people said about them. So telling people, tell, or how do you say that word? And stealing, robbing. Oh my God, somebody's a masjid worshiping God and robbing and stealing. This is so strange. So all these types of major sins, there are some of our scholars that said that they nullify fasting, and there are others that said no, they don't nullify fasting. And they are a sin, yeah, but they don't have anything to do with not fasting and i'tikaf. Actually, there are scholars like Ibn Hazm who said that major sins nullify fasting as well. Not only I said not only i'tikaf, even fasting. It nullifies even fasting. You see? So, Muhammad. Okay. Okay, now he says here, okay, وكسكره ليلا وفي إلحاق الكبائر به تأويلان وبعدم وطء وقبلة شهوة ولمس مباشرة وإن لحائض ناسية وإن أذن لها. Okay. Now it says here that i'tikaf is valid if you don't intercourse to your wife even in the nights, and this is considered as a major sin. So in the nights, it's considered as a major sin because you nullified your i'tikaf and you disrespected the masjid. But in the morning, that leads to nullify the whole fasting in Ramadan. And that's a horrible thing. Plus these other sins. And i'tikaf is valid as long as you don't kiss your wife with intention, with pleasure. So if you kiss your wife with pleasure, that nullifies fasting. That nullifies i'tikaf. But if it's a normal kiss, because you are just you are greeting your wife, that doesn't nullify your fasting. But avoid kissing her on her mouth. Although there is a discussion about kissing on the mouth, I don't want to enter in these details. Okay? And it's valid if you don't touch your wife by intention of pleasure. Touch her, approach her, anything that has sexual meanings. Even if she was not pure, she has her menstruation periods. So therefore, even if she forgets, you see, so she forgets that he's in his i'tikaf, and she approaches him, that would nullify his fasting. Okay. Now he says here that if he agrees for, if the master agrees for his slave to get married, وإن أذن سيد أو زوج لعبد, or a woman that her husband needs her, وإن أذن سيد أو زوج لعبد تنقص عبادته خدمة السيد، أو امرأة يحتاج لها زوجها في نذر أي التزام لعبادة مندوبة من اعتكاف أو صيام أو إحرام أو حج أو عمرة في زمن معين فنذراهما فلا منع. That means, if a master gives the permission for his slave, or a husband gives permission for his wife to make i'tikaf, there's no blame on them to do that, because it's his right. That is his right. He needs his slave to serve him. He needs his wife for a lot of things, but he said to her, okay, no problem. And the Prophet ﷺ, his wives made i'tikaf, and he didn't blame them for that. So it's considered as long as the permission is from the husband or from the master, that's it. There's no problem about that. And the same thing for these two guys, the master and the husband, if they give them the permission to make an oath or to fulfill an oath or whatever. So therefore, if they start their oath, fulfilling their oath, he's not allowed to prevent them from that later on. I gave my wife the permission to make i'tikaf, and then I go telling her, hey, get out of that i'tikaf. I don't want you to stay there. I need you. Oh, that's not good. You gave her the permission. Now she started her worship. Don't go and nullify her worship. So he's not allowed to do that. When she starts, or both of them start their worship, the master and the husband are not allowed to nullify their worship. Okay? Now, if a woman has lots of worships on the same time, and she has to fulfill them, like, for example, she has her period after the death of her husband, and she has ihram for hajj or umrah or i'tikaf. She has to start with the previous one, and then what comes out of that after that. Now, if, for example, her husband divorced her, or he passed away, he died, and she was in her i'tikaf, or she was she was doing ihram for Hajj or Umrah. So she has to continue her i'tikaf or her Hajj and Umrah and, until she comes back and she finishes her, and then she fulfills her iddah. Iddah means the time after divorce or the time after death. We spoke about that. I spoke about that in my commentary on Risalat ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani for the ones that participated in that lecture. It's maybe the last lecture in the Ibn Abdul Barr program. Okay. Unless, he says, unless she makes her ihram for Hajj or Umrah, and she is in the period of divorce. But if she was in the period of her husband's death, وَإِن بِعِدَّةِ مَوْتٍ, so therefore, so she continues her ihram, but she's not, if she continues her ihram, that means she's doing something unpermissible, and she is not supposed to stay in her house because she has to continue her Hajj or Umrah. Now, actually, if she has her Hajj and Umrah, she still didn't do her ihram, and her husband passed away, is she allowed to travel and do Hajj or Umrah? No. Even scholars say if she started her journey, she has to come back and stay at her home 4 months and 10 days. She's not allowed to travel anywhere and stay until she continues her period after her husband's death. You see? Now, if she didn't pay attention to that, and this happens with a lot of women, they don't pay attention. Say, okay, well, my husband died, I'll continue doing my Hajj or Umrah. No, that's wrong. But it'll be valid, but she committed a sin here. Now, if a slave made an oath to make i'tikaf without the permission of his master, and his master prevented him from doing that, so if he gets released, emancipated, he has to go and fulfill his oath. Because now he made an oath, but he wasn't allowed to make it without the permission of his master. But now he's free, so he can so he's obliged to make it. Okay? And he says here that the slave that has an agreement with his master to give him money to free himself, it's called in Arabic al-mukatab. It means he wrote an agreement with his master to get free. He gives him money, and part by part until he gets free. So this type of slave, his master is not allowed to prevent him from doing some i'tikaf for a few days. And if he makes i'tikaf for one, okay, now I think this is, here it finished. This paragraph finished. This paragraph finished, okay? ولزم يوم okay. ولزم يوم إن نذر ليلة لا بعض يوم. Now this is a new paragraph which says that ولزم يوم, it says وَلَزِمَ يَوْمٌ وَلَيْلَةٌ. That means if you make an oath, or if you say that I'm making i'tikaf for one day, morning and night, it's valid. Why? Because you're going to fast and you're going to continue to the night. But if you make one night, or only one night, there's no fasting in the night, it's not accepted. So therefore, he says, well, وَلَزِمَ, okay, وَلَزِمَ يَوْمٌ إِن نَذَرَ لَيْلَةً. So if he made an oath to make i'tikaf one night, it's a full day. But if he makes i'tikaf in part of a day, like the Shafi'is, they say you're allowed to make i'tikaf for even 1 hour. And and the Hanafis, the same thing. And when you enter some masajid of the Hanafis or Shafi'is, you find something written there, نَوَيْتُ الْإِعْتِكَافَ مُدَّةَ بَقَائِ فِي الْمَسْجِدِ. I made an intention to stay i'tikaf as long as I'm still in the masjid. But the Malikis don't agree about this. Say you can't stay in the masjid for a few hours and make i'tikaf. It has to be one full day or a day and a night. You see? Because you have to be fasting according to them. Fasting is a condition in i'tikaf according to the Malikis. You see? وَتَتَابُعُهُ فِي مُطْلَقِهِ. Yeah, it means it's obligatory to have consequence days after days in doing i'tikaf. If you say, I'm going to make i'tikaf, without saying how many days or how many, and anything that you put in your intention, you have to fulfill it when you enter the masjid. So if you, for example, decide to stay 10 days, you are supposed to stay 10 days. And if you put in your intention to stay 10 days consequently, you have to do that. And even if you don't put in your intention anything, you see, and you have to fast, and you are not allowed to do anything that is not allowed to be for any mu'takif, as long as you are in the masjid. Okay? So this is here. حين دخولك مطلق الجوار ومنويه حين دخوله كمطلق الجوار للنار ولا يلزم فيه حينئذ الصوم. Now if you say that I'm entering the masjid, I'm going to Mecca or Medina just to stay close to the holy masjid. So therefore you are allowed to stay there in any time. It's not a type of i'tikaf, it's called jiwar. It means being close to. So this is called jiwar, not i'tikaf. So if somebody says, I will lillahi alayya an ujawir al masjid yawman, I make an oath to be close to a masjid in a night, for example, or a night or a day. So scholars say that this is a type of i'tikaf actually, because the word i'tikaf or jiwar here, it's the same meaning. But if he says, I'm going to stay jiwar in a time, some of a day, or only a night, okay, or some time. So therefore, in this case, this is not considered as i'tikaf. It's considered as jiwar, that's it, as he said. And therefore, he's not supposed to fast and all these things that are part of the conditions of of i'tikaf. Okay, how much time passed since we started the lecture? Please write for me. When did we start? Okay, I think we'll stop here. Now he's going to start. Okay, I'll just finish this paragraph and then continue. Because actually this lecture is considered as two lectures according to the traditional way of studying Mukhtasar Khalil. So look what he says here. وفي دخوله okay. Now it says here للنهار ولا يلزم فيه حينئذ صوم. So he's not supposed to fast. وفي يوم دخوله تأويلان. When does he is he supposed to continue the day that he entered the masjid? Some say it's obliged, some say it's not obliged. And then he says here, it's obligatory to go to, he says here, وإتيان ساحل لناذر صوم به مطلقا والمساجد الثلاثة فقط لناذر عكوف بها وإلا فبموضعه. He says that if you made an oath to go to a shore, what is a shore here? I believe here, and the commentators say that you go to the places where the enemies can attack. So you go to supervise there and protect Muslims. So it's called in Arabic al-ribat, ribatun fi sabilillah. So if you make an oath to go there and to supervise that place and to guard Muslims from any attack from the enemies, and he made an oath to fast there or pray there or whatever. So he is okay. He is supposed to go there, and the same thing if he made an oath to go to one of the three masjids, which is Mecca, Masjid Mecca, Haram, or Masjid Nabawi, or Masjid Aqsa in Palestine, in Jerusalem. These are the only three masjids that you are allowed to make an oath and go to them. Now, if you make an oath to go anywhere else, you are not supposed to fulfill that, because there is no place it's a type of worship to go except these places. So if you go to any other place, it's the same. So if, for example, I say, well, I make an oath to pray in masjid so and so and so, it's the same. Pray in the masjid that is close to your house. That's it. You see? So you're not supposed to do that. Only three masajid you are allowed to make an oath and go to them. So this is it. Okay, so therefore, if you want to make i'tikaf in any other masjid, you make an oath to do that, just make it close to you. Unless it's the three masajid that is Mecca and Medina and Jerusalem. Okay? We'll stop here, inshallah, until, inshallah, we continue, inshallah, next lecture. See you later, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.